Do you use password thing called passkeys?
Stronger mechanism of ensuring who you are.
I would definitely use it. It's now more than far better to implement security measures. Do you use password every single day? Yes, your password. The code or the phrase that you're using to log in your personal accounts, work accounts, or vice versa. Have you ever heard about the new thing called passkeys? The next evolution when it comes to user security or account security. If you haven't heard of it, that's great. We're going to explain it today. If you are already aware of it, that's also great. We might add some new additions to your knowledge. Today, we're gonna explain what are passkeys. I'm Udara, your host.
I'm Kanishka.
So then, Aiboan, Machang. It's been a while.
I was. It's been a very long time.
Yeah, very long time. So today, we're gonna explain what are passkeys, right? After a while, so we don't have to waste any time. Let's try to get into it.
Yes, definitely.
I know about passwords, right? I use them every single day. I used to have a one password for all my accounts. I'm being brutally honest.
Oh my
It's
god!
bad. I know it's bad, but that's how I like when it comes to the IT industry or the tech space. That's how I started. Then later on, I start to switch or mix match my passwords for different passwords to be different accounts. Then started using this app. It's a password manager. So in the hierarchy, I only had to remember one password, a master password, and rest of my all the passwords I stored in my password manager. Fast forwarding to 2026, I've been using like password manager for like last 3 to 4 years, right? So moving forward to 2026, there's this new thing called Passkeys, Majan. If you haven't heard of it or haven't noticed this, all the major companies or major services are slamming this new passphrases in your pages when you log into your account, right? So, to be brutally honest, it's a past key that I don't see a key. So, what is actually a pass key, Macha?
Yeah. So there are like lots of ways to to authenticate or log in a user to a system, right? So I believe like when it comes to passkeys, it's like a stronger mechanism of ensuring who you are. Most of the time, right now, I believe like since we are in a huge technological advancement era, and most of us are always using internet to get things done, right? So in my opinion, so passkeys is like a stronger way of understanding. All right, if you have enabled these passkeys to log into a system, which means the system is, it makes easier for the system to ensure, all right, this is who you are actually logging in, because there is like lots of techniques which someone else can take your passwords and log into a system, right? So this passkey method, it's a more stronger way of ensuring who you are. That's like the non-jargon, non-technical explanation that I have to give.
Okay, great. So, this pass keys thing, what is it? Like, it's another kind of password or more complicated password? What is it actually?
So it's most of right now the most of the devices we have, like mobile devices, it comes with biometric things, right? So we have fingerprints to unlock the phone, and we have face ID or retina scan, something like that, right? So this passkey, what it does is, so it prompt us when we select the option saying, all right, I need to log into this application using a passkey. What it does is it prompt us a, if our mobile phones have biometric authentication, it prompts us that biometric authentication to log in. And once we click on it, even though we don't have a biometric option, a device has, I believe this is something related to do with a on device calculation mechanism. Sometimes it's not available on the latest devices. Sorry, not later devices, all devices. So this mechanism or algorithm, what it does is it generates a unique number which is unique to only your device. So which enables the system to, all right, once you authenticate it using passkeys, it tells you all right, so this is it's basically like saying, all right, this is exactly who is supposed to be that's going to be logging into these applications. Basically, that's the like the whole idea behind it.
Okay, great. So as I understand it, much so the pass keys are like basically what password was doing actually. They are basically checking whether we know the actual word. To be honest, password is a word, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Could be mix and match. It's basically word. So basically, what the service is checking from us is whether we remember that thing or not, right? That's the bottom line of it. So that remember thing, the key point is remembering, right? So password managers took care of it, right?
yeah.
Already took care of it. And now all of a sudden, all the companies, tech companies and everything are pushing for pass keys now. Why is that?
So when it comes to this authentication or understanding a system, whether it is who you are actually logging in, it just there are three things that we need to ensure. Like to authenticate it, give you access to an application. Usually, there are three things, right? I believe you have heard about the multi-factor authentication, is that right? So there are so the factor, as in, so one factor is something you know, so which is basically a password, right? The second factor comes to a two factor. It's either something you have or something you are. So basically, this pass keys, which is trying to ensure you have all these things, like something you have, which is going to be your mobile phone, and something you are, which is going to be your biometric authentication. So the strongest level of authentication, which means to ensure, right, using the factor of something you who you are. So how do we ensure that we have our fingerprints, iris scanners, face IDs? So likewise, when we combine it with something we have, our mobile devices, then it's the authentication mechanism which becomes stronger, and it gives us a more secure channel of ensuring who you are. So
Yeah, yeah.
that's
So as per my understanding as of now regarding passkeys, what it does is like it gives us conditions, right? Like
yeah,
uh, it is not just checking our memory, but it wants something that we know also. For general audience, let's imagine a situation like you are entering to a club. So the
yeah,
bouncer on the front door is asking for your name. Let's imagine the name is the password, whether they have that record or not. And again they are asking for your IDs. This is like the second type of authentication, which is something we have that they want to check, right? So the what they basically do are they are checking conditions, right? So
yeah.
checking multiple conditions is more regarding or more what do you call more into security, right? Is that what you're explaining here, Masha, with passkeys?
Yes, yes, definitely, Lara, you are on point. So what you have, what you have explained is basically the essence of security. So it's two things, right? So one is conditions of access, and one is a condition of actions. So there's a if you can understand all these technical stuff based on these two concepts, conditions of access and condition of actions, you can basically understand what the truth of this particular practice, the passkeys. So in your example, so if someone is trying to get into a club, so basically you said your reservation, and to prove yourself that you have the it is you are, so you can show your ID. So that's basically we can say essentially we could say that to get access into that particular club. So these are the conditions of access. So if you pass these conditions, then basically you can get into this club, right? And after that, what you can do inside the club, those will be the conditions of actions. Basically, what you can do. So it depends on if the club is controlling those conditions of action, what you can do within the club, then basically that's the essence of security. So you're on point with that. Yeah.
So I'm might be bit geeking out here. Back in the day, I when it comes to cybersecurity or security, the three words are getting into my head are CIA. So CIAs are like carved into my brain. CIA is three words combined into confidentiality, integrity, and availability, right?
Yeah.
So this is basically what was the concept of the framework that when it comes to security, right, we have to check all these three things to assume at least we are secured. I'm being correct, right?
Yeah, it's kind of different with us. So to be honest, like, I also I believe both of us we got like educated in our university. It's a cornerstone of security is CIA Triad, right? So that's incorrect. So CIA, confidential integrity and availability, it's basically some kind of properties which is specific for information systems like IT. So there's something called value transition property. So CIA is something related to that. So ensure, right? So if we since security is kind of this is the way everything gets real tricky, right? So securities existed way before information systems, right? So, and if you take like the Maslow's hierarchy of theories, security is one of the things that humans needs, right? So security existed way before this IT field got the technology got into a human's life, right? So if we apply confidentiality, integrity, and availability concepts to real life, how can we do that? It's a real like it's a concept that we can't apply in real life to ourselves. The most easiest way to dethrone the CIA is to look it from a different angle. Let's say availability is a if for the sake of the conversation, if you are thinking about availability is a something related to security, right? Which means if we keeping something available or exposed to anything, which means it's not really security, right? Security basically means obscuring, like preventing you from making yourself available to harm. So that's it's we could have like a different conversation when it comes to this CIA triad. It's
Yeah.
basically not uh, the cornerstone of cybersecurity. Basically, if you can keep it in mind that confidentiality, integrity, and availability is like one of the top three properties which is required for information system to work to provide better value to the end users, then the protection of those properties is going to be security. So if we can use things like mechanisms, controls, and stuff like that to ensure the CIA is protected, confidentiality is protected, and integrity is protected, and availability is protected, then basically that protection part is security, and CIA is basically a properties in systems. That's it.
So that's really good actually. That what do you call that sort of opinion that fact actually changed whole lot of thing and also triggered some confusion inside me, Maja. So
Yeah.
basically covering those security CIA triads, or we can just focus on adding multi-factor authentication. What is the difference between these, Maja? For general audience, they are not in the space of knowing the theoretical parts behind the security like CIA and everything, but they are aware of the multi-factor authentications, right? So how these things add up? Like what are the difference?
So we talked about these conditions of access and conditions of actions, right? So basically, like if you can look it from an angle, you get access. Basically, the conditions of access can be determined through multi-factor authentication. We talked about the factors. Three factors is something you know, a password, something you have, your mobile phone or something like that. Then something you are. It can be your biometric authentication related to your fingerprint and your face ID or something like that. So basically, if a system has configured to be saying, all right, so for you to using our same analogy of the club, right? So if you need to get into that club, if they're using or saying you need to have multi-factor authentication, once you provide the multi-factor authentication, then you can obviously get in. So a system is if a system or a information system is requiring for you to provide multi-factor authentication in order to grant access, then yeah, so multi-factor authentication is something related to conditions of access. So that's that.
Right. Okay. Understood, Maja. So basically, pass keys are mainly a thing to add some access controls, like condition of access controlling, right?
Yeah.
Okay, okay. So with the things you explained, Maja, so we moved from single passwords to multi-factor authentication, right? So then now we are going with the phase or moving to the next phase like passkeys, right? So what specific action conditions do password add or improve in the sense?
So we are now like moving towards a what do you call?
Like let's say I'm breaking down the question, Macha. So let's
Yeah,
say I had passwords, then I changed that to I improved that to upgraded that to multi-factor authentication, right?
yeah.
So now I need to move with passkeys.
Mm,
What,
mm.
what are the like extra conditions that passkeys add into my layer of security so that it's a valid thing to go ahead, like valid thing to implement? What are the like what are the extra things, extra layer of conditions that add into when it comes to passkeys comparing to multi-factor authentication?
Yeah, definitely. So that's a really good question, Udara. So, like, do you remember when we started to use applications? So, my experience is back in the day when I sign up to Facebook. So, I believe it's like most of our like first experiences using a password or creating our first Gmail account, something like that, right? So, back in the day, we had two-factor authentication. There's no multi-factor authentication. The technology is not advanced to have multi-factor authentication, but we had two-factor authentication. So two-factor authentication is we are providing our mobile number and they are sending us a code, right? So um so right now that two-factor authentication is kind of outdated. So there are more improved ways that we could easily use to add another layer of authentication or another factor of authentication. So to answer your question, so like we had passwords, then two-factor authentication. Right now, so we have multi-factor authentication. Then we have passkeys, right? So each factor, when if you look at how we transform the using of these factors from back in the day, like from 2008 or 9 up until 2026. So each factor had like each threat attached to it, right? We could say threat, or we could say like more ways that someone else or with an intent for harm that they could bypass these mechanisms. There were like multiple ways of doing it, right? So I believe you have heard about that phishing and social engineering, so stuff like that. So there are like multiple techniques that that someone else could use in order to bypass these factors. Coming here to this multi-factor authentication or pass keys. So how good this pass keys is going to be? So it provide us or basically the implementer or the system the comfort with, right? So if you're using passkeys, it has more resistance to all of those mentioned threats. So basically that's it. Like so there's since the pass is going to be stored on your device. So device is something you have. Since it's using biometric authentication, so it's something you are. Those things like add as extra layer of security, and it provides with us also. If you are the person who developed this application, and if you are enforcing pass keys, then we could say, right, you could also feel some kind of comfort or secure. All right, since I have enforced pass keys for other people, for the people who are actually using my services to log in, then I could say, right, those users will be legitimate users. Likewise, I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. So excellent. So now I have another thing. This is like a generational questions, Maya, right? This is a basic generational question. So we are evolving around security and we are implementing new technologies, new methodologies every single day. So let's say the passkeys are if passkeys are solving this access issue, there's a issue like that we need to address or we need to constantly improve, right? So if passkeys are solving access issues, why do we still having like breaches, system breaches and everything?
Yeah,
Let's say in a distant utopian world, pass keys are fully implemented, right?
yeah,
So even though we will still get data breaches and everything, right? How? Like,
yeah. It's a it's a really good question. So for the for the sake of this conversation, if you're thinking about all right, pass keys like applied everywhere, basically like everywhere. So that hypothetical question, how these breaches is going to happen, to answer that question, like we should kind of should focus our attention towards uh, criminology, because I believe that since we're talking about data breaches, most of the time we hear that lots of like famous organizations, and they have been a part of kind of a, or they got breached, their systems got accessed, and their data has been disclosed, and also their due to that their market value gets down, and there are lots of financial harm, right? So assume Udara, like if someone, because once we have adapted this passkeys method, authentication method, to almost everything in planet Earth, we could, in my opinion, we could say we might see some decrease of hacking attempts when it comes to we hear, all right, my bank account got hacked, my Facebook account got hacked, my Instagram account got hacked, likewise we see that day to day, like simple shit, right, like happen to regular people. But
Mm,
that data breach kind of a thing, I believe that's something completely different for a normal user, right? If someone needs to, let's say, if you are just a regular person, and and by accessing your Facebook account or Instagram account, nobody right now, it's less information that someone can get, right? So if assuming, like, if I got access to your account, what I can do is I could create a spam message sent to all of my friends saying I have made some with some kind of accident, so to do that I need some money, and that's the extension of that we could do, someone else can do, if, in my opinion, right? So I might see like that kind of a decrease in that regular people's bank accounts or social media accounts getting hacked. But when it comes to the big people, big players out there, we might be the things that we hear on news, that breaches, those are specifically targeted for that big players, because someone has a clear intent saying, all right, I need to get access to this because there's some kind of value to that
mm,
bad actor.
mm,
Okay, so that value, as in as in we, if we hear some kind of a data breach happen and it affected the whole user base of that particular application or that service, then there are lots
mm,
of things happening, right? The market value decreases and they lose their existing customers. Likewise, there's so much of negative things that's going to happen, right?
mm,
If, even though there are pass keys, even though there's like ultimate level of authentication, if there is something like that implemented throughout the whole world, we still won't like, it still won't reduce the fact of that kind of breaches that we hear with that, because either way, there are if there are people with intent, negative intent, which is going to do that kind of shit. So,
mm,
and we could say like, even though having that kind of authentication mechanisms, if someone really wants to harm you,
mm,
they're going to do it either way. Like we could take a real life example there, right? So we live in our home, right? So even though we locked our doors, even though we had locked our windows, if someone really wants to hurt you, harm you, right, that person could literally do that, right? If they
mm,
are not following, if they don't even care about the consequences that they're going to face after do that thing, if they don't care about it, it's just a matter of time finding your location, your home, and they could just breaking the front door, get inside of the house, and do something bad to you. That's it. So that's the same concept. Even though like so many sophisticated authentication mechanisms exist, if someone really wants to do some damage to a particular big player, they're going to do it no matter what kind of authentication mechanisms available. So since we are kind of tech nerds, we think from this kind of a perspective, thinking, all right, so if we have this kind of authentication mechanisms, that a system is going to be secure. Yeah, it's going to be secure against someone who doesn't like, someone with really less motivation. But if
mm,
someone is highly motivated and if someone needs to do some damage to you, they'll they're going to do it either way. There are like lots of other things. Like we could consider like applying multi-factor authentication in a real world scenario. It's basically, it's just like trying to get into this club that we talked about. So if the club is requiring you to make a reservation, you need to provide your ID card, even though there are like a couple of things that you need to do. If someone who is needs to actually, who really need to get into that club, they could basically do anything else to get in there, right?
So
That's a really good question.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So now what I understood is like this is now falling into like never trust, always verify kind of thing. Basically zero trust, right?
Hmm.
Right. So like it's the same thing. We our passkeys like equal thing to zero trust actually.
So yeah, like zero trust, it has like a couple of principles, I'd say, to basically by default do not grant access, always verify. So like when if zero trust concept is built around those kind of concepts and designs. So yeah, you're correct though. So this pass keys, it basically use that kind of zero trust approach as well. If we are following the system you are building to your customers, if you are following zero trust principles or zero trust design, you could definitely use passkeys to authenticate users into the system. And also, if they are trying to execute some kind of action within that system, you could again use passkeys to as a condition of access in order to execute that action. You could use passkeys to uh, authenticate the user. So basically, you could say zero trust follows zero. So passkeys follows zero trust principles. I don't actually remember the whole latest version of zero trust principles, but basically this passkeys has those kind of it follows that same design.
So on this same conditions of access and everything, how does trust aspect fit in? Like how do you make that trust between a service and its user?
Again, a pretty hard. I'll just try to break it down, right? When it comes to trust, so trust is also something like security, right? So it's kind of a feeling. But for trust is also, they have lots of conditions. We could say environmental or situational conditions for trust to exist. So as an example, if you take a like real life example, sometimes we don't trust our drunk friends. We don't
Yeah.
trust them with things, right? And at that time, our friend, if they are sober, we trust them, but if they're drunk, we don't trust them, right? So that's like a situational factor, like affecting our levels of trust. Since we talk about these drunk and sobriety factors, so we don't trust them to do something when they're drunk, right? So that's it's basically about like uh, we don't trust them. All right, if they are drunk, we don't trust them to drive, right? That's something they do. And if they are not drunk, we could definitely trust them to drive, right? So likewise, trust is kind of a rational and also emotional kind of a thing, basic, like a combination of both things. So how do we bring that into an application? We can't do that, right? So it's we could have this zero trust principles. We could have, there are like different kinds of models out there to ensure the like to increase the authentications, to increase or control the conditions that someone can do something within applications. Like we could do some lots of things, right? But if we really talking about trust, Udara, um, we take another example. All right, so we heard about this really good bank. They have a really good application, but they are once you visited their website, you could see, all right, so these guys are following ISO 27000. These guys are following NIST. They have SOC compliance. Oh my God, they have 24/7 security monitoring. So they have all these stuff they have mentioned in the website, right? So just because we heard that service, the big bank, are we going to like download the application? Are we going to use this application, use their services right away? It's basically combined on the bank's reputation, how long they have been in the market, and likewise whether they have like, if we don't have like lots of information, there are like less chances of us using that service, right? So when it comes to that trust, it can be due to numerous kind of things. It can be included in the organization reputation, how much people are used to this particular organization, the brand. And even though if they are not following really good security principles in their applications, but if we are trusting that brand and trusting that name, if it has been in here for a very long time, we tend to use that application, even though like there is no like if it is really familiar for us, right? So I'm not sure like trust coming into an information systems. It's a pretty kind of a tricky
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. So I must say I'm in a better space with knowledge now comparing to when we start this podcast. Actually, this is like a you are basically a security nerd, right? So I'm basically a tech person, but when it comes to security, I'm also categorized as a general audience person, right? So this thing I've noticed the most is like all the big companies are offering passkeys now. When it comes to Google, a lot of people are offering passkeys now. But I see like small applications or small developers or the services that I use are not offering passkeys, right? Let's say I'm a developer. So, what is the simplest way to implement passkeys?
Oh, no. So this is something uh, related to the user experience, I believe. So when we are using multi-factor authentication, right? And how if we think about that from that perspective, so first we need to enter our email address or username, then we need to insert our password again, then we ask for more information, right? Sometimes it asks for a authenticator app, a code from an authenticator app, and that is also like a device bound kind of thing, or either they send code, single sign on code, and we need to type it in. It can be we can receive it from our email address, or we can receive it from our mobile phone. Likewise, right? So how I'll start that question, answering your question from another question that like up to now you used passkeys, right? So how is your experience based on the typical multi-factor authentication and passkeys? How easy for you to use it?
Yes. As I understood it, Macha, thought about this, it's basically about the way we set up passkeys, in my opinion.
It's a
What I mean from that, Mahjong, I'm pretty used to using a password manager.
mm,
So gladly, my password manager does support passkeys. What that
mm,
mean is when it comes to a service, certain service, they are prompting me to use passkeys instead of passwords, right? So when I try to set up, my password manager gets auto prompt up and that will show my passkey correlating to the username of my service that I use, and that's it. It gets synced. I have access to all my devices via my password manager. When it comes to practical usage of it, Maja, when I try to log into somewhere, I have my password manager as a browser extension. I don't have the normal workflow will be I'm trying to log in, then it prompt me to requesting my pass key. So
mm,
my password manager get automatically prompt up since it's already open and it prompt me like give here, this is your pass key. So I just have to tap in, will always get synced in and I can easily log in. The process, if you set up this properly, this is pretty seamless, right?
mm,
But the thing is, the annoying part of multi-factor authentication was when I using Windows and my iPhone. I had to get my iPhone to capture that passcode and I have to put that here. So let's imagine I'm living in my office room. My mobile is on my living room. I have to go there and check my passcode and everything. That was pretty
yeah.
annoying. I did that solely for the purpose of security. I'm being brutally honest. It was really annoying, right?
Yeah.
Then I set up authentication app. That shit like keeps only for 15 seconds. It's getting renewed. It's really annoying. But now when I think about it, the pass keys, it's pretty easy. What
Yeah.
I did was I tried to implement pass keys on my every day to day used applications. That's why I took this developer approach for the question, Kanishka, a lot of major big companies or big service providers already implement passkeys. Might be some way saving cost for them using the SMS services and everything. But my concern was not some of the people or major services are offering these passkeys. That was my concern. Like I initially thought it was a really hard thing to do. That's why I
Mm.
asked the question about how they should implement this. If they implement passkeys, I'm sure the trust of me and the service that I'm using will be improved. But at the same time, it's become more seamless.
Yeah.
Like basically, if you want to get access, show me your keys. That's it, right? That's why that is my experience when it comes to passkeys as of now. That's why I'm more concerned about why there are no critical implementation when it comes to this passkeys feature as a feature. I'm at a stage, Machang, if certain services offering passkey or they market that they have passkeys, I would definitely use it.
Yeah, yeah. It's you're definitely correct, right? So right now, without you are just a regular human being with really frustrated about having lots of hoops in order to log into an application. So having a multi-factor authentication for since we kind of used to the technology and since we have the devices and everything else, we could just configure it, even though it's kind of a pain in the ass. But it's as you said, right? You did it for the sole purpose of security.
Yeah.
If you have a different approach, you definitely an easy approach. You're definitely going to do it, right? So it's like a totally understandable situation, right? And when it comes to passkeys, when you're explaining the situation, that was like I also think right now I believe we could store passkeys if our even our laptops have certain kind of chip and support certain kind of technologies to store passkeys, right? We don't. It doesn't have to be a phone also, right? There are two. I'm not sure whether this is like a passkey authentication experience or not, but there are two situations that I have encountered. So one is when I'm using my personal device, MacBook, to log into the to an application. It prompts the pass keys, and I just click it, and this it prompts to put in my fingerprint, and as soon as I put the fingerprint, it logs me into the application. That's one thing. And there's another way. When I click on passkeys, it generates a QR, and I need to scan that QR from my phone, and then it prompts me kind of saying, all right, which you need to use to access the passkey. So I usually use my password manager, and once I click that, takes some time, and it logs me in. I don't know how it works. It's so basically it's passkeys, right? What I mentioned, what I
Mm.
described was the experience of passkeys, right? So having that the MFA situation that you described, I believe like that's right now the the situation where you have to have using multiple hoops in order to log in. That's experience is now it's sorted out.
As I understood this much, if we are implementing an improvement to general audience, day to
Mm,
day average customers that are not too much into tech, the main thing I believe the implementation part from the perspective of implementation, I believe the main thing should be how easy is this to do? Like if you can reduce the mouse click amount or the touch tap number, there's the conversion rate of more users doing this is basically getting super high, right? So I believe it's more about user experience rather user interface, because there are certain applications, certain services provide the way to verify our passkeys. As you
mm,
mentioned, there are some QR code scanning and everything, but I believe user experience should be seamless. Let's say I save my passkeys on my password manager, which I use on my mobile, personal laptops and everything. So if I implement that, or if I save those passkeys, let's say in my Google account or Google password manager, I don't know the experience that it will provide to the users, like how that they will verify their passkeys. They might need to log into the password manager from Google. I don't have the experience on it, but from my simple experience, Mahjong, it's super easy to me. Super easy to me. So I'm more tend to use or implement passkeys to all my services. If they are offering it, I might definitely using it. Right. So I believe if you're a developer listening to this episode, I believe it's better you focus on the way you implement passkeys in the perspective of user experience, right?
Yeah. So it's coming back to your experience when it comes to multi-factor authentication, right? That so if like a normal user can definitely use a really easy path that they could log into a system, then they are definitely going to use that.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not always complaining much. The my multi-factor authentication system definitely got improved.
Mm.
I see that in iPhone, if you are using an iPhone or Android, if you're getting like OTP code, it will prompt right above your
Mm.
keyboard to tap and enter it, right?
Yeah, yeah,
When the initial stages, it was I had to go back and open the app and get the copy or even remember the code, then put that in.
yeah.
That was not good, but now it's pretty good. But passkeys are better, I believe.
So, like in the future, like if everybody is using passkeys, so passkeys, I thought this passkey, it's like a kind of a changing value, which is specifically stored on our device, and they match that kind of that value with their algorithm, and once it's matches, they grant access. Like some is that something in the background?
I think, Machan, with the things I found on my own research, I think it differs based on the method of passkey you're using, right? There are actual physical passkeys
Mm.
that like Google and many companies sell. When it comes to that passkeys, authenticate with the code of the hardware device, right?
Yeah.
When it comes to software, the verification might be changing. I'm not actually pretty sure about the architecture, how the things work underneath, but in the general idea is you're having actual kind of a key.
Mm.
Let's say in day-to-day life, there's a door, you have to lock it. When you're leaving, when you're coming back in, you have to unlock it by putting it a key in a key. The same concept, right? The thing is, this key is not only match with your lock, it compares certain another factors to actually verify whether this is you or not, right? This is
Yeah.
like a super general explanation when it comes to pass keys. I'm right, right?
So, in that case, like if the passkeys are going to be saved on your device and typically on our password managers, then I believe it's like if someone really needs to access get our passkeys, then they need to get access to our device, like physical device.
I had this small concern when it comes to, it's not a small concern. When I saw this passkey feature, I did not jump right into it. The reason behind it was actually, let's say I have enabled multi-factor authentication. So I put in the password, then they will send me a OTP or authentication app code. So I had to put that in. So if I don't have authentication app, still they are allowing me to log in using my password, right? So I had this concern, if I'm prioritizing passkey over multi-factor authentication steps, if I lose my passkey, let's say I uninstall my password manager by mistake. So how the recovery thing works? Like what I currently do is much I always make sure that I have enabled all kind of mobile number verification and everything to that account. So if I don't have passkey, I will say there's also that option, like if you don't have the passkey, start with this option instead. Like there's always another way to authenticate myself, right? So how this like what are the like these recovery conditions when it comes to passkeys? Much how I know the passkeys are strong, but how does the recovery part do? Like account recovery part do? Is that enabling, or is that like opening a bit of gap between my layer of security? How this plays into?
Yeah, it's a tricky question, right? Like that might be another loophole for someone else to access to our accounts,
Mm,
right? Like if
mm,
you haven't set up the like expected recovery channels for us to recover our account in case we don't have access to passkeys, then either we lose access to our accounts, or
Hmm.
we might be in a situation where we can't prove, legitimate user can't prove uh, that they are the ones who actually they need access to that account and they need to recover account, and it which becomes a really a huge problem. To be honest, when as you mentioned, I also add couple of if there's a secondary email, if there's a mobile number, I also set that up. But to be honest, like if an service is providing us with the pass key, and how does that recovery going to work? I haven't even like properly set like I haven't used new service where like suddenly I use passkeys to login, and I haven't really thought about the recovery. To be honest, like that's a real good scenario, right? The like if someone is not tech savvy and they haven't set up any recovery channels, how do they get access? I saw there's something called recovery keys that they provide us when we sign up. They provide us with a couple of recovery keys that we need to save it separately. And even if we lose access to our account, we could use one of the recovery keys in order to recover the account. But that's the extension of I've seen it.
Yeah, the thing I noticed, Majang, this might be a small thing or might be a bigger thing. If you're using a new service, I don't have the experience of they are prompting me to use passkeys directly. They are
Mm,
basically asking me to verify my mobile number and they get those details before they are prompting me with passkeys. Or passkeys are an additional security option. If I
mm,
check my account security settings, they are having like multi-factor authentication ticked off, mobile number verification ticked off, email verification ticked off. Then there's like passkey, enable passkey option. So from my back of my head, I always go for that option, but they don't put that on my face, like always like enable passkeys. But I also noticed, Majan, for all the service that I've been using for years, they already have those information like my mobile number, they do have it.
mm,
They know that I have access to it. My email, they know that they have access to it. All of a sudden, when they implement like a new security feature, these passkeys, they are just letting me know like let's check your account security. There's this new feature called passkeys. Enable that. So in that step, Machang, I have noticed that they are not providing me with any kind of recovery keys or anything because they already know that they have my recovery information or method of recovery if I lose my pass keys, right? When it comes to crypto stuff, they're definitely having that pass code thing while implementing pass keys.
mm.
Mhm. Yeah, that's
So
a
it's
good. Yeah.
yeah, it's about like prompting like how to like before you have pass keys, if the system is how the system is configured, right? If you're going to enable pass keys, then you should these things are mandatory in order for you to enable the pass keys, right? Then
So this password recovery or passkeys recovery steps will actually this recovery step, can we consider this as like a weakness when it comes to condition of access that you explained previously?
yeah, that's we could say like
Because
it's a
I'm
weakness.
elaborating my question again, Majang. So we have implemented password, then we move to multi-factor authentication. Now we are in the stage of passkeys, right? So in the process of recovering those passkeys, we are taking a step back, or we might go into multi-factor authentication, right? So this step back will enable like a weakness or might dent our condition of access that we explained.
Yeah, something like that. Was I'd say it's solely relate to conditions of actions. This if we are like uh, if we are configuring a system, all right. So these are the conditions of access that you need to have in order to access our system. But if we are deliberately leaving some condition of actions for a user, it can be a legitimate user, it can be someone with the intent for harm or something like that. If they could bypass it, the recovery methods using a different recovery method and get access to it, then basically it's about like a condition of access, condition of actions. So in this case, if you are service provider that is hoping to integrate passkeys, then the things that Udara mentioned regarding to recovery and also having these kind of mandatory requirements. All right. So if you are a user, if you're signing up for my services, in order to have this pass key mechanism, then you should provide these with these channels in case you lose your access to your pass keys. So that if we have like if the service provider is deliberately requesting that information, I believe like which leaves the application to be leaving like lots of condition for actions for someone else to bypass and get access, right?
Yeah, that's good. Tanishka, today episode is really good because why I am saying this as a host is not only because we are doing this podcast, but I have gained some knowledge regarding why passkeys are important. As a person that I already use passkeys, I gained some information or knowledge regarding why passkeys are important. So for our listeners, Pacha, so what they do, what I want them to take home is to be aware that there's this security feature that you can enable in your accounts called passkeys. My question is if our listeners want to remember one thing, just one thing about passkeys, they listen to our episode. Okay, they're talking about passkeys. They are keep listening. Some might be interesting, some might be not. But I want one thing to be remembered regarding passkeys when you heard that word for listeners. What would that be? Not actually like a word or thing, but let's say when it comes to multi-factor authentication, what my head will get into is it's annoying, but I do it anyways for security. So
Yeah.
that way, if I'm asking someone to enable multi-factor authentication, I say yes, this is bit annoying, I know, but trust me, it's really good. But could be when it comes to passkeys.
Like if you're annoyed by multi-factor authentication, then go for passkeys, right? It's
Yeah, that's a good
before
plan.
before that you have to have proper recovery channels set up. Then
Hmm.
go for passkeys. Like if you're using a password manager, like both of us, then definitely having a password passkeys, it's cherry on top. It's good.
So yeah, let's create a checklist when it comes to account security and authentication for general audience, Maja. For your all your services and account when it comes to Facebook or Gmail or anything, make sure to add some strong passwords. Then find a way or find a channel to store those passwords. We are highly recommending a password manager. Try your own. If you asking us to recommend one, we can recommend Bitwarden, right? We both agree on it.
Yeah,
It's pretty good. It's pretty good and it's free.
free, and if you're paying it, it's pretty cheap.
Yes, it's pretty super cheap, like $10 per year, right? Comparing to other things that you're paying for, it's really cheap. It's really good. The user experience is really good. Interfaces are really good and they are constantly updating. They are implementing new features. That's really good. That's what the recommendation of ours when it comes to a password manager. But there are big players when it comes to password managers like one password, and if you are using those, that's pretty good. What we want you to do is start adapting password managers. What password managers do is they will remember all the passwords for you. You just have to remember one password, and I'm begging you to change that password at least 3 months period. Change that password. It's possible. The other thing, first, it will be like strong password. Make sure if the certain service asking for like additional verifications like email or mobile numbers, go ahead, because it's not Sri Lankan service, like not Sri Lankan services. They will not spam you with SMS like these offers are these sales are happening and everything without your consent. They will not do that. They just want that for the sake of authentication. Add those information also. Then save those information in a fully trusted place apart from your head, because we keep forgetting things. So don't trust your brain when it comes to password and authentication. Please use password managers. The next thing is passkeys. If you're using a password manager and if you're enabled like mobile number verification and all thing, then automatically you will be enabled to have multi-factor authentication. If possible, use like authentication apps. But what we are proposing here, what we have explained today, the importance of passkeys, the new or the next step when it comes to use access to certain services and thing. Implement passkeys, store those passkeys in a place that you can constantly access, like your mobile or a password manager in this our experience with our experience. What else, Macha? Anything I miss?
No.
It's basically access and actions, right?
Yeah.
Like at least when it comes to pass keys, remember the two words access and action. Yeah, it's today's really good episode, Majang. I gained a lot. The thing is, when it comes to I'm not a super nerd when it comes to security. I don't know why. I might not used to it, but I'm planning to. But for the general audience here, it's now more than far better to implement security measures. Things are evolving really quickly. So really have more concern regarding what your online presence or the information that you have apart from yourself to have a better containment plans or contingency plans. So that's why we are asking you to use password managers or implement multi-factor authentications and now implement passkeys. Yeah, I hope we deliver certain things or at least one or two things to your knowledge with this episode, right?
Yes, Udara. Yeah. It's been
It's
a
not,
long time, right?
yeah. Yeah, it's been a long time since our last episode.
Yeah.
This year we are more focused on spreading awareness because with this all these AI stuff and everything, things are changing quickly. That's pretty much we want to cover, right, Kashka?
Yeah.
So yeah, so we will put this out in our as we explained for the previous years. We will push or publish our audio episode of this podcast in our audio platforms like Spotify podcast, YouTube podcast, and everywhere else. Then we will be putting up this episode into YouTube for the video purpose. We will put our content on LinkedIn also. If you have any concerns or if you have any clarifications to be needed, please reach out to us. We are highly active on LinkedIn, Twitter in that sense. And even you want to talk to us, feel free to comment on our YouTube also. Yeah, that's pretty much it we need to cover today, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So let's meet back in a soon episode, right? So Henan, Jai Veva.
Jai